Welcome to the Downlight Down and Feather Market Update. It's August 2026, and we're here with our monthly report where we tell you what's up with Down. Before we get into the data, a quick reminder for you all about our upcoming webinar. On September 24th, we'll be covering how to care for all of your favorite Down products, from bedding to sleeping bags to down jackets and even pillows. If you live in the world of Down and Feather, you won't want to miss it. We also have a quick compliance note. Today's report is based on current market metrics and our best interpretation of ongoing conditions. It should not be viewed as a financial forecast or a guarantee. Please consider all available information before making final business decisions. With that out of the way, let's get right into it. If you've been tracking prices over the summer, you've noticed we've experienced a brief window of price softening from July through early August, providing some relief after prices soared over the past few months. Unfortunately, that pause is now beginning to subside. As brands return to secure materials for fall and winter manufacturing, pricing is stabilizing with an upward bias. The core takeaway this month is that underlying raw material supplies remain constrained globally, putting a firm floor under the market as we head into peak production season. To get a better understanding of what's causing these changes, let's take a closer look at what's going on in China's Down and Feather market. Ex-Works China prices saw slight declines between early July and early August, with white duck down dropping about 2%, while white goose down dropped by about 0.07. This temporary dip gave distributors a chance to clear accumulated inventory. However, fresh brand orders delayed by the higher pricing are already absorbing that excess, resulting in prices beginning to creep back up. Also, with China enforcing stricter inspections and implementing the upcoming GBT 17685-2026 standards, demand for verified high down content material will only increase, causing upward pressure on higher percentage downfills. In Europe, pricing remains stable near all-time highs, with no meaningful relief expected through the remainder of the year, even as export demand from China has moderated and macroeconomic headwinds create consumer uncertainty. Raw material availability across Europe remains exceptionally tight. In Poland, reduced poultry volumes following an avian influenza outbreak have severely constrained goose down volume, keeping luxury bedding and performance apparel fills under persistent upward pressure. And currently, duck down prices also remain pretty elevated, and processors continue to face squeezed margins from high labor, energy, and additional compliance costs. Now, to double click on everything a bit further, we're going to look at our favorite but sort of sneaky indicator of the Down and Feather market, China's pork market. Despite a brief 15% bounce off of mid-April lows, ample supply and cautious consumer spending continue to keep domestic pork prices historically depressed. Because cheap pork dominates dinner tables, demand for duck and goose meat remains soft, squeezing poultry farming margins. While heavy financial losses and government pressure are gradually forcing breeding capacity cuts, market rebalancing is taking longer than anticipated. Even as pork eventually bottoms out and incentivizes poultry producers to begin expanding flock sizes, it'll still take roughly 4 to 8 months for that to translate into more raw down on the market, something that we're still watching very closely here at Downlight. Now, with pork prices out of the way, let's take a look at logistics. Ocean freight out of Asia saw temporary relief in July, but rates are climbing once more. By late July, spot rates had set around $5,700 per container from Shanghai to Los Angeles, and roughly $7,600 from Shanghai to New York. However, shipping lines are actively trimming capacity through blank sailings while port congestion persists, nudging rates back upward. Meanwhile, North Atlantic trade lines from Europe to the United States remain comparatively steady. Now on to tariffs and foreign exchange. There are some critical regulatory changes to note here. On July 24th, the temporary 10% Section 122 surcharge expired, and it was replaced by the new Section 301 forced labor duty. For Down and Feather imports, HTS codes 0505.1.0050 and .0055, China and Vietnam now carry a 12.5% tariff, a 2.5% increase over previous months, and shipments from Taiwan and the EU are capped at a 10% duty alongside existing MFN rates, while Ukraine remains duty-free despite ongoing outbound transit challenges. Crucially, our legacy China Section 301 tariff exclusion remains active, sparing imports from an additional 7.5% tariff, though USTR's ongoing 4-year statutory review warrants continued monitoring. If you'd like a more comprehensive overview of the latest tariff information, I would encourage you to reference this section of the written newsletter. To wrap up here, as we move into peak fall production, supply remains an important underlying factor in both regions. Duck and goose breeding volumes in China remain constrained by weak meat economics, while high-quality raw materials continue to be particularly scarce. In Europe, raw material quantities remain limited, particularly for premium goose down, and suppliers see little indication of meaningful price relief through the balance of the year. Demand will likely determine the direction and magnitude of the next market move. If additional fall and winter orders enter the market against today's limited raw material supply, pricing could strengthen even further. Conversely, weaker than expected consumer demand, continued caution from brands, or a mild start to the winter could limit purchasing and create additional periods of price stability or softness. Overall, the recent increase in purchasing activity in China is an important development to monitor. While it remains early to determine, limited raw material availability and renewed brand purchasing suggests that further meaningful price declines may be less likely as we move into the fall production season. So given current market data, our recommendations are as follows. Consider locking in premium fill allocations now, factor updated tariff schedules into your landed costs, and lastly, to continue monitoring pricing closely and anticipate increases as 2026 wraps up. As always, if you guys have any questions or would like to discuss any of the topics that we discussed here further, just give us a quick email with the information on screen or connect with us here on LinkedIn, and we'll be more than happy to connect with you and walk through the latest developments. Thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you guys next month.